From accident to recovery, knowledge matters. This is the AICA Podcast, bringing attorneys, specialists, and experts together. At AICA, we got your back. Welcome to the AICA Podcast. I'm Jeff, and today we're excited to welcome on Clark Karell as our guest. And Clark is the founding litigator of Karell Trial Attorneys, which was founded in 2021. He grew up the son of two disabled military veterans, and their service has shaped his life and his mission in the law. Clark has lived abroad and throughout the United States, earning dual degrees in political science, and this one fascinated me, Clark, experimental psychology. We might have to get into that if we have time, before getting his law degree from Georgia State. Clark lives in Brookhaven with his wife and daughter, and he is driven by a passion for helping others and making a meaningful difference in the lives of those he has the opportunity to represent. Welcome, Clark.
Thank you very much for having me. It truly is a pleasure, Jeff.
Well, let's jump in. So, to founding Karell Trial Attorneys in 2021, what was the catalyst for wanting to start your own personal injury firm?
So honestly, I was truly blessed. It didn't seem like it at the time. I'd always wanted to, launch my own practice. And there's so many attorneys out there that definitely do. And it's really hard, especially when you got the job, you're getting the salary. You hear the term golden handcuffs, where you're kind of locked in because you can't get away. I was working for one of the big billboard firms, doing a lot of litigation. That's all I did. And like many at those bigger firms, the litigation mill firms, you get stressed out. They wear you down a little bit. And this particular one I was at, they had sent out an employment satisfaction survey. And I told the truth. For better or for worse, did a follow-up phone call with HR and I kind of knew HR, it wasn't that large of a firm. And I talked to it we were talking outside of work, not as she was in the position of HR. And it was brought back to, the higher ups. And basically I was a turd in the punch bowl. And June 4th, 2021, I'll never forget it. I was working, it was still kind of during COVID. People are remote, but I'd always be in the office. And they called me to the conference room. I was like, that conference room.
Conference room meeting, yeah.
Yeah, and so I walk in, it was the head guy, the COO, and a guy with a gun on his hip in the corner. Well, you sure could have this a lot better. But it truly was a blessing. Like, I see him out and I shake his hand and say, thank you very much, because it really gave me the kick in the tail to say, let's do it. Obviously I have issues. Let's see if I can do it any better, at least give it a try. And I encourage anybody who's thinking about it, give it a try. Because, if it all went to hell and I could go find another job at another firm somewhere. But at least I can say I did it. And I'm damn sure thankful I did.
I love that. You got one of those unexpected life nudges that let you step out. Yeah, I can imagine kind of seeing it done a certain way, developing your own kind of mantra and philosophy, and then having the chance to actually step out and make something for yourself the way that you want to do it.
Yeah, no, it was a blessing. I was lucky in that. You never thought being fired would be a blessing, but it truly was.
I appreciate your perspective and your honesty too. So in your experience now, so you've got the time with your own firm, obviously. How long were you doing personal injury prior to launching Karell Trial Attorneys?
So I've always wanted to do, since law school, I knew after my first year summer, I knew I wanted to do personal injury, wanted to help people. Obviously, my parents, I witnessed what they went through with, the VA and being disabled vets. And, you would think I'd want to help that. It's too close to me. I couldn't go do that, but I wanted to help people in some form or fashion. Thought it was going to be criminal law initially. Did my first year summer, 1L summer after the first year of law school at the Fulton County Public Defender's Office. At the end of the summer, the guy was like, and this can all be yours. And I was like, I'm going to do civil. It's terrible. And there's a need. I'm looking forward to down the road going back and doing some pro bono work to help people, but it's tough. And, working as hard as you work to get through undergrad and law school, it was kind of miserable work, in all honesty, to do that day in, day out. So I knew early on that after that I wanted to do civil litigation and always wanted to help people. And it's funny, actually, in law school there at Georgia State, we had superlatives, and I was voted most likely to have his face on the side of a MARTA bus.
How about that?
And in law school, actually, they look down on that. People are like, trashy PI lawyers, but, it's the big law or, go work for a judge. But, I wore that as a badge of honor, whereas others didn't quite see it that way. I loved it. And, I started a smaller practice. I actually got somewhat of like it was really, I would say a pay cut considering,
Hmm.
what I was getting in loans. And I was, also waiting tables through law school. And, I took a job at very, very low rate just to get into the PI community. And then, went to another firm, and then another firm, gradually learning more, getting more
Hmm.
experience. And, I've taken something from everywhere I've went. And, it was good. I did nothing but litigation work, and I definitely learned a lot.
That's awesome. So I'm very curious to hear your perspective on this. So with AICA being on the medical side, you're obviously trying cases and handling the process of litigation. What are some common mistakes throughout your experience, or maybe misunderstandings have you seen crop up between attorneys or legal and then medical and the providers that are serving your clients on the other side?
It really all comes down to one thing, and that's just communication. The communication is so key. It's so easy to miss what we might see as simple things, and you can't think that somebody's thinking the same way as you. There needs to be a constant, communication, just like, hey, this is what's going on. If the client says they're good, then just let them go. If the client's really in pain, having issues, like, let's make sure that we're all on the same page to how to best go about treating the client. Because at the end of the day, to hell with everything else, helping, the client, them getting better is the most important part, because something happens down the road, they'll remember that you looked out for them, you took care of them. And there's nothing, again, making sure that they're in the best possible shape that they can be in for that specific instance. And doing so, getting them there does require communication between the law firm and the medical provider.
That's great. And I can imagine, a lot of times the point at which someone is coming to you for help, it might be one of the lowest moments in their life, right? Like they've potentially been in a traumatic car accident. They're trying to figure out transportation, hold down their job. They're working through their pain, and they're navigating a process that's just unfamiliar to them. So a lot of times I can imagine your clients feel a very pressing financial need. So they're thinking, okay, Clark, how do I get money quick? Like I'm in need, I'm in a pinch. And then of course on your end of things, you're looking and saying, hey, there's an aspect of this that has to play out, right? It's not always quite that simple. So how do you find yourself navigating that tension with your clients?
Yeah, and to begin, I have to, try to we remind ourselves we do this for a living. We see this all the time, and I think we really sometimes forget about where these clients are and the trauma they've really faced. When you do it day in, day out, you kind of maybe not forget, but take it for granted the true significance of what they're going through. And so, first of all, step one is to remember the hardships that they're facing in this instance, and what this has, how this has impacted them. It's not just about working the file and making sure they get the best result, but it's also about coming to their level and meeting them and letting them know that you care and that you understand. And again, it comes back to communication. Honesty, communicating with that client and saying, look, I'm here for you and I want the best for you. The billboard guys, love them or hate them, they definitely inform the public as far as their rights and whatnot. But, they see these big billboards, I'm going to get you this quick settlement and get you this. And like, to me, especially having done a lot of litigation work, like a quick settlement, you're losing value. Like, unless it's just a $25,000 policy and it is what it is, like, a quick settlement might not be in your best interest. And it's again about communicating with the client. Like, look, I know you want the money, but that money's going to go sooner rather than later. At some point that money isn't going to be there anymore. You'll have went through it, but that pain and the issues that you're facing are going to be with you for life. And so that's why, it's most important to truly address the issues, because the money be damned, your health should be number one. And so again, it's just going back and like letting them, walking them through the process, explaining to them, I want to help you. I'm here to help you. Let me help you. And there are services that can, help get them some money or something if they need it. We definitely try to keep the client reined in, and, it's a tough process. It really is tough for them. And sometimes I don't have a good answer, and it's just really just letting them know that I'll open it honestly rather than, just blowing smoke and, hey, this is hard, but if you want to, this is kind of what we need to do. But it comes back to getting back on their level and letting them know that you care, to really get them to understand where you're going. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're focused on, is making sure that we get the best outcome. And again, there might be some tough times, and sometimes I don't have an answer. That's tough. It really is. This is not real. For the faint of heart.
That's real. So being, you yourself live in the metro Atlanta area, you have your practice. I'm sure you cover the majority, if not all of the metro Atlanta area and even beyond. We who have been here for a long time know that there's all kinds of things going on, right? Like ride shares booming, bicycles, motorcycles, tractor trailers, the whole gamut. And there's constantly, every time I'm commuting, there's at least one accident. So as you're kind of looking at the lay of the land, and here in Georgia, we've gone through some recent tort reform, right? As you look ahead, maybe a few years, is there anything on the landscape that you see coming that will be relevant to the personal injury community?
Well, first of all, absolutely. I mean, there was the whole tort reform thing. SB 68 was, coming after your right to a civil justice. And, whoever's listened to this podcast, understand, people, first of all, think, oh, my insurance rates are going up because these PI attorneys are just suing everybody. And that's not the case. I mean, they've done plenty of studies in other states who have really enacted it. And, our right to a jury trial is enshrined in the Constitution. This is the 7th Amendment. And, it is very important, and that should be held to the same account as the First and Second Amendments, but it's not. It's under attack. You think this was the first part? They're still coming. They that is a tip of the iceberg. They are coming after us. With the larger insurance lobbies, are really coming after us, and so it's important to stay engaged and understand the importance of your right to civil justice, and just know that. The reason I have my position is not because I like sought it out and we made it a thing. It's because the insurance companies really just screw people over. If they did the right thing and treated people fairly, I wouldn't have a job. I'd be writing wills or doing something else, And so it's very important to understand that the insurance company does not have your best interest. It is the shareholders and stockholders of, their corporations. Those are the ones that they really look out for, and they will do what they can to make sure their bottom line and not care about you. So first of all, I would say make sure to stay engaged. That's because they're still coming after us with the tort reform, and we have to stand up because it's not about us. It's about the community and their benefit. Because I truly believe, civil justice, when we go and make these, we get compensation, we get verdicts, it drives social change. They will modify their behavior, but if they can get away with screwing people over, it's just going to get worse as far as the conditions that we have to live in. With that SB 68, I will say that it's unfortunate, but if you're injured on a premises, as far as not necessarily slip and fall, but there's the security breach, a security issue, negligent security, good luck. You likely won't recover anymore in Georgia. I mean, it's the bar is so high, and with the Ubers and stuff as well. We talked about those. They are really limiting. They've kind of capped, even though they're a commercial carrier, they should be considered a commercial carrier. They've been able to cap how much they'd be on the hook for insurance policy wise. So again, with them coming after you, it's important to stay engaged, and it's also very important to have uninsured motorist coverage because they're fighting like crazy to continue to limit how much you can recover from the at-fault party. So it's very important to protect yourself moving into the future. And, hey, if you have any questions on that, feel free to give my, or look up Karell Trial Attorneys. I'd be happy to go over that with you because that's something that is really going to matter as we continue down the road, as they continue to eat away at, your chances for justice against a true at-fault party.
So, Clark, with all of these changes in the landscape and some of the challenges and the tensions we talked about navigating the personal injury space, do you see yourself in this particular field for much longer? Are you planning a transition? Where are you at with all that?
No, I love it. I mean, this is truly a blessing. I reinforce with the team, like we do the Lord's work. I mean that. And how much of a blessing is it to be able to help people? We truly fight for them. We come in daily and knowing that our work is meaningful to individuals. I mean, we hand people checks that truly change their lives. And I couldn't ask for anything. I'm blessed. I'm lucky to be where I'm at. I'm truly blessed. I don't know why, but to be able to do what we do is just beyond rewarding. And I couldn't ask for anything more because, being able to change people's lives, doing the right thing, doing the Lord's work. And, we enjoy doing it. It's we have a good time trying, messing with getting the insurance companies to pay. I mean, that right there is they say, oh, we're only going to offer this. And we say, okay, we'll see about that. And I couldn't ask for anything better. It really is a gift that I'm able to do this day in, day out.
Well, it is very clear in a short time that you still have that fire in your belly. No question about it. So, Clark, I want to thank you for joining us today. To all of our listeners, viewers, thanks for tuning in. Take care, and we will see you next time. That's it for today's episode of the AICA Podcast. We'll be back soon with more insights. Until then, we got your back.